Hello everyone, and welcome back to learning JavaScript with me. So, from this past 1 week, I have learned a lot of new stuff. What is JSON, what are the header files, what is the GET request, POST request, AJAX, BOM, browser object model, document object model, call stack. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simply make sure that I will revise each and every topic in this particular. I have 10:30, right? So in this 45 minutes I'll be trying to explain you each and everything that we have learned until now. I will try to keep it short, but I will try to explain it in depth as well. So let's start with today's video. First thing, let me delete this day to day 5 videos, or we can say folders, because we don't need them right now. All what I'm doing is I am continuously learning from the YouTube channel and posting the videos on YouTube, so I don't think there is the consistency of day 1 and day 2 while we are doing anything in this particular VS2 Visual Studio. Okay, so practice, or we can say slash revision over here, revision revision of course. And इसको भी थोड़ा सा zoom कर देता हूँ. Control B will close the explorer menu, and also we don't want the script as well. So we are in the inside, so if I go over here and write server started, and let's open this in our Chrome browser. Let's wait for the live server to open. Yup, here you go. So we are over here, we have our beautiful web page available, and also let's open the developer menu so that we can see all the things that are going under the hood. Let's open the big drawer. So let me do this, and let me show you, no, not this, let me show you this. Of course, this in a big screen and also little bit zoomed in. So yeah, server started, we got the message as server started, and indirectly. Okay, so let's start from the basics to advanced. So first thing is variables. The variables, or we can say variables, or we can say and keywords. So JavaScript uses three types of keyword. One is the let, second one is the const, and the third one is the var. So var is not highly recommended because it has the some limitations, or we can say it does not have any limitations, but due to this it causes many errors in our code. And the most heavily used keywords are, in order to create variables, those are let and const. So for an example, name of me, I create this as Lokesh, and I write this as CPU as AMD, or we can say Intel inside. So these two variables are something called as the variable name. So notice what is happening over here. Const has got the yellow color, and the let has got the color of red. What is this trying to tell? Imagine that, no, not imagine, let me just print the names, or we can say console log the names. Not this. Yeah, over here I have got the two variable that I was looking for, and I will just duplicate this and print it over here. So Lokesh and Intel inside are getting printed. So what is the use of the let keyword? See, let keyword is a keyword which helps you to initialize the variable twice. So in this case, if I go over here and if I rename this variable, if I go over here and if I say name of me is going to be, it needs to be changed from Lokesh to, we can say, VASNIK. And the moment I go over here and console log the name, and I console log the variable, I can see the wasting variable is getting printed over here, because we are using the let keyword, and let keyword allows you to reinitialize the variable. But the moment I do this with the const keyword, if I do this and if I try to print this one, the const keyword will tell me that assignment to constant variable is not allowed when you are using a const keyword. So const keyword is the highly, or we can say it has the high rate of giving errors, and the let keyword has the low level of getting errors. Where you can say initializing is allowed over here, reinitializing of variable is not allowed over here. So this was all about let, const and keywords. If we talk about the var keyword is highly not recommended, and so on and so forth. Okay, now let's go and move forward, and let me show you an example or we can say let's open the menu and see that yes, we have the topic which is known as scopes. Now the scope is also the scope, so scope, and we will say hoisting, not hosting, it is hoisting. Hoisting is not a word that is given by the JavaScript developers. It is the, or we can say, a public name given to a certain scenario that I will be explaining over here. But before learning to the scopes, before learning to hosting, we will be learning about how JavaScript runs behind the scenes. So in order to teach you that, I will be needing a white blackboard. So let's go and say blackboard, or we can say board, drawing, DRAWNG, drawing board, or we can simply use Excel draw as well. Sketch.io, I think it is the better thing. Yeah, it is loading. Let's wait for the loading to happen. Yes, sir. So over here, this is it. Okay, I will simply use Excel draw because वो better रहेगा. Yes, sir. So see, already I have written the code over here, so do not need to do anything. देखो, see, in JavaScript there are two things that you need to understand, or we can say there are three things you need to understand. First is the global execution phase, second is the memory execution phase, and the third one is the code execution phase. Global execution phase is something where, like, it is the execution phase which runs in the JavaScript engine. It is run through the JavaScript engine. Over here there is two main important thing, which is the memory execution phase and the code execution phase. Whenever you click on, or we can say whenever you declare some variables, whenever you write some functions, what happens is it goes inside the memory execution phase. So inside the memory execution phase, the variables are named as undefined and the functions are printed as it is. But when you are inside the code execution phase, whatever values the variable is having, for an example, the name of me had Lokesh, so the Lokesh variable is inside the code execution phase. So in order, if I want to access that code execution phase, I need to be have a good, I have to be like proper in this thing. So let's go and first see what do you mean by memory execution phase. Imagine that I have a variable over here which is saying that name, or we can say it is having a calendar variable which is having a let keyword, or let's say a const keyword, and it is saying that it is March. Okay, let's put a debugger over here so that inside our code I can easily go and demonstrate you. Over here I am inside the dev tools, and over here we can see that I had put a debugger over here, and this is what it does. See, over inside the scopes, as we are talking about the scopes keyword, over inside the scopes topic, you can see that the calendar variable is defined without even printing. Means that the JavaScript engine does not even, it didn't even print the whole code, or we can say it didn't even execute the whole code, but it is telling us that we have a calendar variable which is storing an unavailable value, and that unavailable value is nothing but the undefined value. So once we go forward and once we run this line number 18, you can see that the line number 18, as soon as it prints, the code execution tells that the code execution, inside the code execution, we will see our calendar as March available. So this is the memory execution phase, and this is the code execution phase that I earlier showed you. Now if I want to access this variable over here before initializing this, I will get an error. I will get an error saying that, if I reload this, yes, I will get an error saying that cannot access calendar before initializing, because I am using a const variable. The moment I do this duplicate, and if I change it to let variable, I will get the same value as now. See, I will cannot access calendar before initializing, which is saying that I am accessing the calendar variable before initializing. I have initialized this variable before that. But the moment I do var is something where it tells me that you can do anything, but you don't have any restrictions, like let and const. The moment I do var, I can have this variable and the variable will tell me that I am undefined. Now why I am undefined? Because inside the memory execution phase because inside the memory execution phase which got executed earlier, or we can say which got executed first, the name was equal to undefined, and because of that we can see over here that the name is defined as undefined. Okay, now the moment I create a function, which is saying hello my name, and it is simply consoling hello world, and the moment I do this and the moment I complete this, and if I say over here hello world, hello my name, and I call this function, okay, and I call this function, you can easily see that undefined hello world undefined. The first undefined is line number 18, which is this console log. The second undefined is line number 22, but the 25th is getting printed because I called this function got executed first, and then I'm getting the console.log value. So this is how functions are also hoisted. Now I can say that the variable is hoisted properly, and I can say that the function is also hoisted properly. So these are the main things that you need to understand while you're learning scopes, while you're learning hoisting. Now let's go deep inside scopes. What is global scope? What is lexical scope? What is block scope? Each and everything. Okay, in depth of scopes in JavaScript. So it's like A block scope, it's like B global scope, it's like C lexical scope, and it's like C, or we can say A B C D, block scope, global scope, lexical scope, and one thing is called as the function scope, which is also known as the block scope as well, so you don't need to be understanding that as well. Okay. Total number of scopes in JS. Three types of block scope and function scope. Yes. Block scope, function scope, global scope. Yes, one. Lexical is also there, but yeah. Okay, let's go and understand what do we mean by block scope. See, what is a function? A function is a block of code. What is a if statement? A if statement is a block of code. What is an else statement? It is also a block of code. So whatever I write inside a block, if I create a block over here, whatever variable I create over here, like let block var is equal to, variable is equal to this one, okay, something like that. Now this block of code will only have the access under this, it will not have the access over here. Now if I want to access this block var, I cannot access that because this variable has become the block scope. Now if this was a if block, I would have not, like, I wouldn't have the access to to use this variable. See, it is telling me that block var, the variable that you have defined, is declared but the value is never read. The reason why the value is never read, because it is inside the block scope. So this is how the block scope works. For an example, if I create one more variable, over here, and now if I want to access the block var, I can access this variable over here. I can access this variable because the var block is having the block scope of the parent. That's the reason I can access that. But the moment I do this, I have no access because this variable is having the access between these blocks as well. So this was all about the block scope. So block scope only has access inside the blocks, not outside. Okay, now let's talk about the function scope. For an example, you have a function over here, you have a function naming that my name function, hello my name, no, my name function, which is a simple function which prints something, or we can say which is a my name function which prints something. So the variable is going to be Bablu, which is equal to Lokesh. Okay, this is the variable name. Now this particular variable will only be accessible inside this particular function itself. It is not going to be accessed anywhere. So if I create something called as one more if true, if I wanted to access this, I can easily access that. If I create this over here, and if I want to access this, I won't be able to access this because I'm inside this function and it is the block scope variable. But the moment I do var over here, var can be accessed because the var keyword indirectly goes inside the function scope. The var keyword indirectly targets the function scope, and that's the reason we can easily go and access W over here, and we won't have any block var is not defined. Block var is not defined because this is the value, and this is going to be function scope. Okay, over here. And now if I do this, if I reload the page, and if I create the my name function over here without even giving any parameters, so yeah, as you can see, the var block is a function block, is a function scope. That's the reason I can easily go and access that. Okay, this was all about this one. Now there is the global scope. Global scope basically is having like creating the functions globally without giving any keyword, and that can be accessible anywhere. And lexical is from the parent to child and child to parent. We do not use lexical scope that much, so you don't need to understand that much, like it's not required. Okay, now let's talk about some other stuff. The other stuff, hoisting is done, scopes are done, the main topics are done. Hoisting is done, scope is done. High order functions. Let's talk about something called as the high order functions. What are functions? So functions topic, there are two types of function. One is the high order function, one is the expression function, the third is going to be expression and declaration, DECLA, declaration function. Okay, now I have what is this function called? This function is called as a declaration function. What are expression functions? That I will tell you. What are higher order functions? That I will tell you. But first let's go with the declaration functions. Declaration functions. So this function what I'm writing over here is add a and b, which will be returning a plus b. Okay, now this function is called as a declarative function because this function is having the keyword name as function. That's the reason. Now if I want to add this, so see, these two are called as the parameters, and whatever I will pass, whatever values that I will pass while calling this function are known as arguments. Okay, so if I give 12, then I can see over here, if I reload this, let me go and reload this, but I won't get the output. So const output, or let's go and make this CLG add 12. Okay, now I will get the output over here as 24. Okay, you got it, 24. The reason 24 because 12 I had returned the add function, and when I redo the return function, the function returns something, and that is needed, that's needed to be cached over here. Okay, now let's talk about something else which is known as the declaration, or we can say expression function. Const is there, then something const will tell you that sub. Okay, now this will be a function itself which will take a and b, and which will return a minus b. Okay, once that is done, I will simply go CLG, I will do sub, I will do 12 minus 1. Okay, so what is happening over here? Although we have used the function keyword over here, but we are saying that the function keyword is stored inside the variable called as the sub. So now this sub variable is having all the power of that particular function, and because of that it is called as the expression function. I will get the output as clear, I will get the output as 11, but now this variable, whenever I will go anywhere, I will just call this variable and instead of this function keyword. Okay, so this was the expression function. Now there is one more expression function which is known as expression arrow function. Now why we use arrow function? Because of its simplicity. For an example, if I go and grab this line and go over here, and I will simply say that const multi is equal to an arrow function. Now the arrow function will not have any function keyword, it will just have the uh, bracket notation, and then it will have an equal to sign within an arrow without even any curly braces. You can actually go and use curly braces, but it is not required. Without even any return keyword, it will simply go and do its stuff, like the work is of multiplication. Okay, now the moment I do console in one line, I can easily go and get and see the values. As you can see, 12 is equal to 20, but not that. Multi is going to be 1220, which is 144. Okay, now look at this function which is taking 3 lines of space. Look at this function which is taking 3 lines of space, but everything just went over here and without having any issues. So return keyword is over here, parameter is also over here, there is no use of the curly braces, and this is how the expression functions work. Now expression functions and declaration functions do have a lot of difference. Declaration functions are the ones who get inside the memory execution phase, but expression functions are not the one who get over there. For an example, if I wanted to do this, if I wanted to do this, I can easily go and print the value. We can see, refresh the values, 24 is getting printed because the execution phase works. But the moment I do with the expression phase, okay, the moment I do with this with the expression phase, I will get the reference error saying that cannot access sub before initializing. Same thing that was working with the let and const. Okay, the same thing is working over here with the expression functions as well, but not with the declarative way. This is the use of functions. So now let's talk about the third thing, which is known as the third main topic, which is known as high order functions. Now what are high order functions? High order functions are those functions who take a callback function, a function which we call, like we define a variable, we define the function, and inside the parameter, or we can say inside the arguments, we use the inside the argument we simply use the word which is known as a callback function. So let's look at them. So high order function, a great example will be of the set interval. Set interval is a high order function. Set interval is a high order function which takes the first argument as a callback function. It is written over here, the first handler or the first argument is a callback function, and the second is the interval which has passed over here. So what is it actually? So after 200 seconds, or we can say after 2 seconds, you are going to print something. I will say hello after 2 seconds. Okay, the moment I run this, go over here, see hello after 2 seconds. It is printed once again, it is printed twice, fourth, fifth, and so on. Okay, so this is the help of this high order function. Now why are high order functions useful? Because it takes the callback functions. Now this callback function can be a normal function as well, but because of this approach, ES6 approach, we have used something called as the loop, or arrow function. Now let's call the multiple function over here. The moment I call the multiple function over here, look what happens over here. The multiple function will be called like this. So the multiple function will be like 12 plus 12. So it got called over here. Now the callback function will run automatically and it will get the values. But it doesn't work like this. the arrow function over here, it doesn't work like this. So you need to write something, you need to call that function over here, and you need to pass the values as well. And you need to pass the values as well, like the multiple function can be over here and that multiple function can be called over here, exactly like how it is. Like, see, this function is called over here, this function is called over here, this function is called over here, like that. So after 2 seconds, look what I get over here. I'm not able to see anything because I'm calling this function and I'm not giving anything. That's the reason. It's because, okay, I did not use the call function. I did not use the console log. How will the console log print? See, 144, 144 twice, 144 thrice. That's how it works. So simply I can use that as well. If even I can just go over here and console log that as well, but I am not going to do that. The callback function is something which returns the value and that function prints automatically. So this is how the call high order function works. Okay, now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something else which is taken an array. Imagine that you have this array which is saying 123, then you have 12, then you have 45, then you have 12 again, 121, and so on and so forth. What are you going to do over here? I'm going to simply go over here and say map. I'm going to simply say item. I'm going to simply say CLG item over here. Okay. Now the moment I do this, I am mapping over the array element. I'm mapping over the items which are present over inside the array, and I'm printing that. So I will simply go over here and see what is happening. So 23, 12, 45, 122 is printed as it is and not having any issues. 23, 12, 12, 45, 121 is getting printed without even having issues, and that's how it is working. Okay, but remember that this function is a high order function which is taking a argument, or which is taking the first parameter as this thing, or we can say which is taking the first argument as a callback function. Now it can be a function itself, it can be this function itself, it can be something called as this, but we are using something called as a this function which is returning something, which is returning a console.log, and that's how things work while you're working with Intel was that's how thing works when you're working with high order functions. Okay, now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about high order function is done, execution context is done, event symbolization which is bubbling and everything, that is not important in this case, so we are not going to do that. Call stack, or stack is very easy to understand. Browser object model and DOM, document object model. Let's understand this one. See, browser object model is something which deals with the browser APIs, and document object model which deals with this document, okay, with this HTML code. It deals with this one, but the browser object model deals with the browser capabilities like reload functions, onload functions similarly. Okay, so let me tell you in this one. Over here I have this value, so let me dock this on the right hand side, on the left hand side of course, and let's do this as 100 and let's minimize this as 1. Okay, or let me remove all the console logs so we won't have any issues. Positively pressed it, and yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do over here, what am I going to do over here? First thing is, let me tell you window object. See, the window object is the global object which takes the browser APIs as well. So inside the window object, everything inside the JavaScript is an object, so we can use a dot notation in order to get that. So if I do alert, and if I say hello over here, and if I see, you can see I am able to access the browser APIs with the help of this console. Okay, now if I do simply window dot location dot reload, the moment I do reload, it is a function, right? So we need to call it. It is a function, so we need to call it. We can see that the F keyword is saying that it is a function. Now this, whatever I did, this is actually the browser APIs. So you can say DOM in JS, which is obviously the browser object model. Now let's see what Medium is telling about this one. So medium is telling that we have the window property, which is saying that we can do anything with the window property like document, display, open, close, alert is there, set timeout is there, add event listener is there. We can do anything similarly. Okay, this is how it works. So let's use JavaScript in order to handle that. Imagine that you have a button which is having a class name of btn, which is saying that click me to reload, click me to reload. Okay, the moment I do this, I will have the function present over here. I will have this function, which is this one, which is saying that click me to reload, and I will simply go over here and put in this function. I will just grab it. I will say button, which is equal to document dot query selector, and what I'm doing over here is I'm accessing the button variable. So the button keyword is, which is btn, right? So I will simply say btn over here. Okay, let me show you the button. What I am doing this is I am accessing the document. So this is known as document object model, and everything inside this document is obviously an object. That's why we are using a dot notation, and that's how things work over here. Now let's use a high order function that we have previously understood. So button is going to be calling an high order function, which is known as add event listener. Now this add event listener takes the type of the key that you want to listen, which is the first argument. Then it takes the callback function, which says that, hey, can you do some stuff? So I will say that inside the window object, go inside the window object, go inside the location, LOCATN location, and use the reload function. Just call that reload function when somebody clicks on the button. So if I go over here and if I click on this reload function, imagine the page got reload over here, because we are using the browser APIs and we are handling each and everything with the DOM as well, and that's how things work over here. Okay, now there are tons of APIs we can use over here, just like window dot alert is there, document is there, closes the current browser tab, opens the new browser tab at the one. Okay, so if I do window dot open over here, which is a function itself, and if I go inside this browser and if I do this, first thing is it will reload, so we need to off that reload thing. And the second one, as you can see, it is about this one. As you can see, this is how it is working. So this is how a callback function works, and we can do anything. Now we can also do this. We can say that the function is going to be an arrow function, which will say that const click event handler, or we can say reload event handler is equal to an arrow function, and which will be saying that I will have all this value, so which will be this, and which will be a reload itself. I will simply go and call this reload handler function event handler over here, and the moment I do this, I will get to see the simple output that I was expecting, because I know that the event function can be called with the help of the arrow function itself. So we can create this anywhere and we can just go over here and pass it, and we will get our values as usual. Okay, so this was all about event listeners, or we can say BOM, DOM, etc. So it's been 33 minutes I am recording this video, and I am pretty much sure that I hope you guys enjoyed. But the last topic is left, which is known as async await, or we can say Ajax JavaScript. Now Ajax JavaScript is simple, which is known as asynchronous JavaScript. So whatever you write inside this JavaScript, or whatever you do, it all depends upon the flow. I don't know what I said, but it is actually something called as asynchronous JavaScript. See, JavaScript is a single threaded language, and because of that, it cannot handle two tasks at one time. So, what it does is it gives the second task, which is the asynchronous task, to the browser, and the browser converts this to many threads and it works accordingly. So it goes inside the callback, then the web APIs, then inside the call stack, and this is how it is done. So let me teach you little bit about Ajax, or we can say JSON object, as well as we are learning that as well, right? So let me go you and see dog API. let me give you an example of this dog API which will let you know each and everything. Okay, now see, I have this HTTPS request. First let me tell you what is HTTPS request. So AJAX and everything, right? So first let me tell you asynchronous JavaScript, right? Set timeout. Set timeout is set interval is a function which is asynchronous function, which means that it will run accordingly, but it will not disturb our code. It will run in its way, but it will not disturb our code. For an example, I I am not disturbing, DESTRBING, disturbing your code. Okay, set interval is telling me that. So even if I do this console.log hello world, it will print as normal. Console.log hello world will print first and then it will print. See, if I go over here inside the practice, hello world will print first. I am not disturbing your code. It will be running and I can do anything with this code. See, I can do anything. I am not blocked over here. So this is what asynchronous JavaScript means. This block of code will do anything without even harming our code. Okay, now let me give you an example of that real quick. So for an example, you have something called as the fetch API. Now the fetch API simply tells me that I have this particular line of code. Okay, on that code what I will do is I will get you something. So I will get you a then response which will give me the response, and that particular response is going to be CLG response is going to be the value. Okay, but I'm going to say that I want that particular response in a JSON format. Okay, convert that particular response instead of text inside a JSON format, and after that you are done with converting, give me that data so that I can console.data CLG the data, and that's it. Now notice what happens over here. I'm saying that I got the particular response inside an object. JSON is nothing but a JavaScript object notation, which is nothing but an object which is saying the message, which is saying the status. So these are two values. Now these two values are something similar. So the message is saying that HTTP is this, and the success is also saying that the status I have got the values. But over here, notice one thing is that notice one thing. Now this function ran immediately, which is a get function. It ran immediately. Okay, now whatever the task I am doing over here, for an example, if I do hello world, this is also one type of a asynchronous function which is saying me that then which is an asynchronous function which is taking the promise. I will be teaching promise once I learn the videos, but I know a little bit about promises. That's the reason it is giving me a promise. The promise either fulfills, either rejects, or it is inside the pending state. So this code is also a asynchronous code which is not harming, or we can say it is not providing any error in our code base. Let's open the network tab and see what is happening over here. So the network tab is telling me that you hit this route at this particular domain, which is telling that the requested URL was the dog API and the request method was the get method. The get method got the 200 OK status. So this was the preview. This was the response that we got inside a JSON format, and that I converted inside the JSON format, and that's what I'm doing over here. Okay, now this particular data is giving me an image inside a JSON object. So if I want to access this particular data, I can simply go over here and I can say that the data is going to be simple.message. Now the moment I do this, and if I go inside this one, I will get this particular API, and you can see that I got that particular dog image. Now this particular dog image is actually coming from the outside world. We are not using any inside world object. It's coming from somewhere else. It is coming from some other server, and that server is what I'm trying to say over here, that whenever you are trying to access to a different world, the async await thing must be very important, or we can say Ajax must, you must understand how Ajax works over here. Okay, now let's copy this, and let's copy this as well, and let's create a function which will say that image URL handler, or we can say image URL generator, which is going to be an arrow function which will simply say that hey, I am having this function, I am getting this value, and what I will do is once you are done with this, I will just go and return this function. So what I will do is I will say the image, and I will simply go over here and I will say return me the data dot return me the data. Oh, okay, it will say return me the data dot message. Okay, once that is done, I can go over here and I can simply say console.log image, and once I call this function, which is the URL generator, and if I go over here, I will simply get the promise as pending because I'm inside the promise state. But once I'm done, okay, yeah, the promise is done, which is this is done, and when we are inside this, I will get the value. So what I will do is I will initially go over here and I will simply say that inside this data, just go and give me the image. So simple over here, I will go over here and I will get the image. Okay, instead of consoling dot the image over here. So I will go over here and I will console log the data, and not to do this as well because simply it will cause error. Dekho, you got the values. Okay, you got the data. So I will just go and write message. That's it. And we can, with the help of JavaScript, we can go and actually access the data as well, but we are not going to do that. Okay, because it is not required for this reason. Okay, so this was all about learning JavaScript with me, or let me show you that example as well, because you also might be wondering, like, let's show. So B10, click me to see a dog image. Dog image over here. Then I have this image property which is having the source, and which is having this one. I will also give the width as 200, and I also give the height as 200 because I want the width and height to be equal, and I will also give this class as img. Now notice what I am doing over here. I am grabbing the const image, which is equal to document dot query selector dot img, and let me show you that simply over here what we are grabbing. So over here I have got this particular image, if this particular image element which is having this, right? So it is having a source tab. So if I go over here and if I click src, I can simply go and see that the source is something else, which is this particular source. So what I will do is I will simply go over here and I will simply say, instead of consoling image.source, grab that image, grab that source, and simply go inside the data, simply go over here and paste the message over here. This is it. Okay, so reference image is image img is not defined because we are accessing the image over here and not image, not that, so that's the reason. Yes, so as you can see, click me to see a dog, which will obviously not show you a dog because I have not actually went over there and accessed that. So let me just grab this, paste this over here, grab this function, replace it with this one, and once we are done, you can see I will get to see one value, I will get to see other value, I will get to see different values whenever I will click on this function. And inside the network tab, you can see the number of requests that I send on this API: 200 pending, 200 pending, 200 pending, 200 pending, and that is how you connect with the outside world. You understand the Ajax and everything. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and it's been 43 minutes. I'm speaking continuously, so we will be catching next time.